What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are doing my Selection 10 predictions. So pretty much Selection 10, if you have not heard, you've been living under a rock. The OCG announced that they are getting a product, I believe in December? Question mark? I think December, where they're getting 10 new, not 10 new archetypes, 10 archetypes are getting 3 to 4 cards each of support, and that's incredibly hype because that's a good amount of cards for just like old archetypes to get, not just a one linked monster like the Link Vrains pack. So I'm really excited, and pretty much what I want to do is I want to do a fun game where I'm coming up with my prediction. I'm giving 10 archetypes that I think could be in here, that I think have a good chance of being in here, and I'm going to see how many I can get right. And of course, as always, I like to make games out of things, so I want to see you guys, if you can throw a list down below. I wanted you to throw it in here because I'm not going to count if you come to me later once archetypes already been revealed, like, I knew it. Be like, prove it, son. Wasn't in my comments, right? So throw it down below, and I want to see who can get the most right because I'm feeling pretty good about my list. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Number 10, we're talking about the Magnet Warriors. This one's kind of a pipe dream. I'm kind of just hoping this one's in there. You might have seen it on my other list, but I still think it makes a ton of sense. It hits that anime factor hit, which hits casual players and collective players at the same time. And I think they have cool designs. I think they also were done dirty by the fact that they made ABCs insanely better than this structure deck when they made them both at the exact same time. That's kind of disrespectful. And this is Yugi's cards, right? You got to make Yugi's cards better than this. This is terrible. So yeah, I hope they're in there, honestly. So yeah, Magnum Warriors number 10. Moving to number 9, we have Fables. This is a weird one. This one was in the structure deck poll for the last one. And I don't think it did insanely well, but I think what that does is it means Konami's kind of thinking about Fables. Konami might have already had an idea of some Fabled cards they might have already wanted to make, and maybe this is a perfect outlet for them to kind of toss out some of those cards. It's also like, this is like the younger sibling to like Dark Worlds almost. And while I almost thought about Dark Worlds, I just think Dark Worlds actually have had a decent amount of support over the last couple of years, whereas Fables don't. And I think it'd be cool. I think it would be a cool deck to throw in here. I think Konami's already been thinking about them in some ways. Next up, we've got Crystal Beast. This one is another one, kind of next to Magnet Warriors. This could be another way for them to hit those anime lovers, the casuals, the collectors. And if they make them good enough, you know, it would be crazy if Crystal Beast were actually relevant competitively. I doubt 3 to 4 cards could actually do that, but it'd still be cool to see. A lot of people really like Jesse's deck from the anime. It's a cool deck. I like the design. They're cute. They're cool. And I think they haven't really gotten like legit helpful support in a minute, and I think this would be a good chance to throw those in there because it'd be one of those highly sought after. If it's legitimately good support, it would be very sought after by a lot of people, and I think it would help bolster that setup and just make it more desirable by the masses. Moving on to number 4, we've got Evolzars or Evoltiles or Evolzars. I don't know, right? But it's a cool archetype, and I want to throw this in there because I thought this would be like a weird pick. Whenever we have stuff like this, like a pack like this, Konami always seems to throw in like some weird ones. I'm talking about like the Parshath Link. I'm talking about like Alien Link and a Reptilian Link. Those are both weird. And this is a Reptile deck, which could be another one of those just like, oh, I almost forgot. This is just one of those archetypes where people are like, oh, I forgot about Evolzars until Konami makes Evolzars in Selection Pack 10, right? So it's kind of my flyer pick. It's one of a weird one that I thought like I had never really thought about them, but I guess it makes sense. They definitely need a lot of revamping, but at the same time, they do have 2 boss monsters that are pretty cool. The Evolzar, rank Exceed monsters are pretty good. They have a Rhoda already straight up, and they have some effects that straight up special from the deck, which is honestly not that terrible. So, I just think it's one to keep an eye on. It's kind of one of my flyer picks, but yeah, I'm throwing Evolzars in there. Next up, we have Ghia. This is one I've been talking about for a while as well. I threw this in with the Link Vrains pack talks as well, but I think this one makes sense to get 3 to 4 cards more so than one Link monster. I think the deck already has some capability to extend. It has some cool card effects, like has some cool removals, like on flip summons and stuff, which is kind of cool, but it definitely needs to some help to speed up to keep up with 2020. But also the other thing is that it's an Earth Machine archetype, so it's already got Infinitrack synergy, Machina synergy, right? Some other just generic Earth synergies. It's pretty cool as well. Scraps, also potentially Orcus, stuff like that. There's just a lot of Earth decks that could potentially work with this deck, which I think is pretty cool. And so if they got the go-ahead, I think it would make a lot of sense. This is a former, like, highly, like, a pretty competitive deck. I don't know if it was ever legitimately tier 1, but I know it was a relevant deck a couple of years ago. And by a couple, I mean, I don't know, what, 10 years ago? It's been a while. But yeah, I think a lot of players like that when they see old good decks get support again, be like, oh, the second coming of this deck, that's so cool. I remember when I used to play this deck at my first regional or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's stuff like that, and I think that makes Ghia appealing to potentially put in this set. So I'm going to throw Ghia in there. I think that one actually makes a lot of sense. Next up, we have Boojans. This is one that actually did get a Link monster in Link Vrain's pack, but I still think it didn't make any sense. Like, Boojans was one of the archetypes you're like, if you make Boojans a Link monster, it should probably get a busted Link 1. It didn't get a busted Link 1. It got a cool Link 2 that's kind of generic. But it doesn't actually help Boojans get really any better, unless they get 3 to 4 cards here that legitimately, like, expedite the way this deck does its strategy by a trillion. Like, that's what this deck needs. It's just so slow. This deck has trouble putting 2 monsters on the field in the same turn, and it really needs help to like, you know what I mean, amass bodies on board to get to their Link monster, to get to rank plays easier and stuff like that. That's what they want to do. But the Link monster didn't make sense by itself, so maybe this is the support that, in conjunction with the Link monster, actually is like, whoa, Boojans do stuff now. That's pretty cool. But we'll have to wait and see. I think they make sense. A lot of people like Boojans. It's like one of those weird archetypes that, like, a lot of people like randomly. I don't know if they were ever legitimately good, but hey, you can like whatever you want. I'm not going to blame you. I think their designs are dope, and I'd love to see them do more. They got some cool, like, utility cards. They just need ways to make use of them more, you know, effortlessly. So yeah, I'm going to throw Boojans in here. I think that one makes sense as well, which takes us to, I believe, our fourth to last. We've got Gusto. Okay, Gusto just makes so much sense to me. They got 3rd in the structure deck poll, but they got so close to making top 2, which would have gotten them a structure deck, and I think Konami might be in the same place as, like, Fabled, except this deck did so well, so Konami's already, like, eyes wide open, like, whoa, Fables did good. A lot of people like Fables. We gotta do something about this. And they also might have had an idea where they would even have gone with a structure deck, and now they're like, oh, let's just throw it in Selection 10. Throw those cards that we already designed into Structure Deck 10, or Selection 10, and let's get this deck, like, you know, it's stuffed, because clearly people want it. I just think it makes a lot of sense. Clearly people like it. It's a wind deck, which doesn't get a lot of love. Wind is, like, the most underappreciated attribute, and I'd love to see you know, that happen for them. So I'm going to throw Gustos in there as number, I think, 6. Yeah. Which takes us number 7 is Dinomis. I knew I wanted to put a pendulum deck on here, and when I really looked at it, it really only came down to 2 things for me: Dinomis and Magispector. So those are the only 2, like, pendulum decks that actually made sense to me. And the only reason I went with Dinomis, even though I think Magispectors have more appeal to, like, secondary markets, is Magispectors still have Kieran on the ban list, and I think if Konami wanted to help Magispectors, they would start by taking, like, Kieran off the ban list first before making them new support. And so I ended up with Dinomis. I think they're a really cool deck. They're just a couple, like, power cards, like cards that plus, shy of being a legitimate, like, cool deck that does things, because it has access to doing, like, Bahamut Toad plays, Cyber Dragon Infinity plays. Like, it's pretty cool. It makes use of a lot of, like, weird extra deck monsters you didn't even think of. Could be used in the same strategy, and this deck makes use of them. So I think it's a cool pendulum deck. I think it makes sense, and I wanted to throw a pendulum deck in here because there's always one in the Link Vrain's packs, and I think this could be the same thing. Number 2, though, we move to Sylvans. This is a deck that was just the best deck in the game at one point for Plant Synchro, I believe. Very, very cool deck. It started the excavation strategy, and now we're looking at stuff like Adaemancipator making use of excavation. So maybe while everybody's hyped on, you know, the excavation strategy and Adaemancipator, Konami may try and cash in on that and say, oh, let's throw Sylvans in there, make some new good excavation cards. I know they just got a new spell, Sylvan's Blessing or whatever. It's terrible. That card is so bad. So I'm really not that worried about that card getting in the way of, like, oh, we just gave Sylvan support. I just think Sylvan makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people that like any kind of plant deck, it's like Sylvans. Sylvans are the coolest plant deck to a lot of people. They were legitimately the best deck in the game at one point. A lot of people liked this format a lot, and I think that goes a long way of like making this a good pick that would pull in a lot of players to potentially like this, especially if it's good. It makes Sylvans like interesting, like, oh shoot, Sylvans are like plant emancipator now, because of the new cards actually make them like legitimately like interesting, like power wise. But obviously you never know, but I would love to see them in here. I love the designs of this archetype, and I know a lot of people do as well. So Sylvans, second to last, that's our 9th. Going into our last one, you already know what it is, you should. It's Satellar Knights. This one, of all the ones, I know I said it a lot in this video, but I said, oh, this makes sense. Oh, this makes sense. Oh, I think this makes sense. This one makes the most sense to me. I just think this is a deck, again, an old meta-relevant deck that can get like a revamp. When I wanted this, when I thought this could be a pick for like Link Brains pack, it didn't really make sense, because again, it's kind of like Bujin. It's one of those decks that doesn't really make sense with a Link monster unless it's like a Link 1 that's really good. A Link 2 or higher doesn't really make sense, but like a new monster, a new spell, a new trap, and maybe a new extract monster. And this archetype, if they were all legitimately good, could be a legitimate like scary threat, and could be like a you know, a rogue deck again. And I think that's what a lot of people love. The design of this archetype is just classic nerd combination insanity fiction. It's space with like medieval knights fighting in space, like so cool. I love that. So many people love that design. And yeah, they already have such a strong base. They've got like an Omni Negate. They've got a Searcher, a card that specials from grave. They've got an insane boss monster that bounces the entire field non-targeting and floats. Like, they have so much going for them. They just need this. This is perfect. I would say this deck only needs 2 cards if they were the right cards to actually be like a cool deck again, like relevant wise, like competitively. And this could be their chance for 3 to 4. I just think this one has been one of the ones I've had on my radar for so long, of like, Konami needs to give this deck support, because I bet you there's a ton of people just like, I always loved Satellar Knights, but like, they're just not good enough. Konami just needs to give them that support, and I'd be all about them again. This is your chance, Konami. Don't be a fool. So yeah, that's it, guys. That is my prediction list for Selection 10, the OCG's upcoming set, giving support to 10 archetypes. I'm extremely excited to actually find out about it. I wanted to get this out early so that we didn't just get like early reveals on it and start getting cards revealed and stuff, so that like I go, oh man, I didn't even get my video up predicting. Now I just look like if I got anything right, I look like a fool. Right? So I want to get this up now, and hopefully you guys participate. Definitely, like I said, leave your comments down below. Give me a 10 archetype list, what you think is going to be in here, because I want to see who can get the most right, because I'm feeling pretty good about my list. And no copying, all right? You can have a couple the same, all right? But you better not have the same list. I'm going to be pissed. But that's going to do it for me here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more discussion videos like this one in the future from Shaboy. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.